Imagine Blake Shelton and George Stephanopoulos face-to-face on Good Morning America. What began as a simple morning chat quickly spiraled into something no one expected. What started as a late conversation turned into a fiery live on-air confrontation. Tension built, words flew, and in an instant, Blake was escorted off the set. It all started like any other celebrity interview. Lights, cameras, a friendly welcome, and a casual tone. Blake arrived to promote his upcoming tour and new music, expecting laughter, maybe a few stories about life on the road, and a chance to connect with his fans. The stage was set for a warm, uplifting segment. But beneath the surface, something else was brewing. George Stephanopoulos, ever the composed journalist, shifted gears without warning. The mood changed. Viewers at home could sense the unease as George pivoted toward more contentious questions. What was supposed to be lighthearted suddenly carried a sharp edge. As the tension thickened, the air in the studio became heavy. Blake's smile faded. Something was about to break, and nobody, not even the producers, knew that this ordinary interview was about to make live television history. Before Blake Shelton could even finish his opening remarks, George Stephanopoulos steered the interview into dangerous waters. What began as a casual conversation about Blake's music suddenly turned serious. George questioned him about past comments he allegedly made regarding the current state of country music. The tone shifted immediately. Stephanopoulos pressed on, referencing accusations that Blake had dismissed newer artists, especially women and non-white performers, as watering down the genre. The studio audience grew silent. Blake's face hardened, his usual charm replaced with a tense focus. He pushed back firmly, insisting the quotes were taken out of context. Blake reminded George that he had always supported diversity in the industry, helping new voices rise through platforms like The Voice. But the host didn't stop there. George challenged him again, demanding clarification, pressing for a response that fit his angle. The conversation wasn't just uncomfortable anymore, it was confrontational. Viewers could sense that this wasn't your typical morning banter. Two strong personalities stood toe-to-toe, and the energy in the room shifted from polite professionalism to something electric, unpredictable, and ready to ignite on live television. The tension started to crackle as the two men squared off under the bright studio lights. Viewers at home could feel it. This wasn't the usual cheerful Good Morning America vibe. The studio audience grew uneasy, watching as both Blake Shelton and George Stephanopoulos waited for the other to back down. Then, things escalated. Blake accused George of staging an ambush, questioning his journalistic ethics and fairness. The words hit hard, echoing through the silent studio. The segment was unraveling live, and it became clear this wasn't about music anymore. It was about respect, reputation, and control. George didn't retreat. He pushed further, questioning Blake's authenticity. He contrasted Blake's superstar lifestyle with that of the average country fan, a comment that struck a nerve. Blake bristled at the suggestion that his fame had made him distant from his roots. Leaning forward, voice steady but firm, he declared, "I've always stood by the music and the fans who supported me through every record and every tour." But even that powerful statement didn't stop George. His next questions carried an edge that made it clear. This was no longer an interview. It was a confrontation live before millions. George Stephanopoulos wasn't finished. His questions grew sharper, more direct, less like an interview and more like an interrogation. He cited past critiques of newer country trends and asked whether Blake Shelton felt disconnected from the younger artists dominating today's charts. The implication was clear. Was Blake out of touch with the modern sound of country music? Blake pushed back, his patience wearing thin. He pointed to his years of mentoring rising talent on The Voice, his collaborations across genres, and his commitment to supporting new artists. But George's tone only grew colder. The questions felt loaded, meant to corner rather than clarify. "Are you afraid of change, Blake? Are you out of touch?" George asked. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Blake's eyes narrowed, the calm country charm slipping away. The camera caught it, that flicker of controlled anger. "This isn't an interview," Blake said, his voice low but sharp. "It's a hit job." The control room froze. Producers exchanged nervous glances. Viewers saw the tension explode in real time. A battle of pride, principles, and power, unfolding live before the nation's eyes. The moment Blake Shelton uttered those words, This isn't an interview. It's a hit job. The atmosphere inside the Good Morning America studio shifted completely. For a brief second, the live feed glitched, almost as if the tension itself disrupted the broadcast. Staff members moved uneasily behind the cameras, unsure whether to intervene or let the scene play out. Then, without warning, security began edging closer to the stage. Blake stood up, his expression unflinching. Facing George, he declared that he wouldn't continue the charade. The audience gasped as he removed his microphone and walked off the set mid-broadcast. The studio went silent. A few moments later, the show abruptly cut to a commercial break. Inside the room, the shock was palpable. Viewers across the country were left staring at their screens, stunned by what they'd just witnessed. Millions saw it happen live, a beloved country star walking away from one of America's biggest morning shows. Within minutes, social media exploded with clips, hashtags, and speculation. ABC had lost control of its own program, and the nation had just witnessed one of the most shocking walkouts in live television history. As soon as the broadcast cut to commercials, the internet erupted. Within minutes, clips of Blake Shelton's walkout flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Fans were divided. Some praised Blake for standing his ground, calling him brave for refusing to be ambushed. Others criticized him for abandoning professionalism, claiming he should have finished the interview instead of storming out. Comments poured in. He stood his ground. He stomped right out. Unprofessional. The debate grew louder by the hour. Meanwhile, media watchdogs and entertainment outlets turned their attention to Good Morning America. Was George Stephanopoulos simply doing his job, or had the network deliberately set a trap? Ethical questions filled headlines. Did ABC cross a line? Was it fair to ambush a guest during a promotional segment? The discussion soon expanded beyond Blake himself, touching on journalism ethics, fairness, and the blurred line between accountability and spectacle. Behind the scenes, insiders close to Blake claimed the singer had no warning about the shift in tone. They insisted the interview was supposed to be light and positive, until the questions changed mid-segment. To them it was clear Blake Shelton hadn't walked out of an interview. He had walked out of an ambush. In the days that followed, both sides tried to control the narrative. Anonymous sources close to Blake Shelton told outlets that ABC producers had blindsided him, switching topics mid-segment without warning. They argued that no artist should be cornered under the guise of promotion. Fans echoed that sentiment, defending Blake's long history of mentoring young musicians and collaborating across genres. He's built his career on lifting others up, one insider said, not tearing them down. On the network side, Good Morning America producers released a carefully worded statement. They stood by their editorial integrity, saying they welcomed tough questions and regretted that the segment ended early. They also expressed disappointment that Shelton chose to leave rather than conclude on a reconciliatory note. But by then, the conversation had already shifted. Pundits and fans alike debated a deeper question. Where's the line between accountability and ambush in live journalism? When an interview turns into a confrontation, who really wins? The host, the guest, or the audience? Even now, Blake's appearance remains one of 2025's most unforgettable TV moments. A raw reminder that live television can expose not just a celebrity's composure, but the fragile balance of media, power, and truth. Blake Shelton's explosive exit from Good Morning America left more than just shockwaves. It sparked a national conversation about authenticity, respect, and the unseen power struggles that unfold behind television's polished smiles. Was it a setup or a moment of truth caught live on air? That's for viewers to decide. Moments like these remind us how quickly public perception can shift, how one question can turn a calm studio into a storm. Whether you side with Blake for standing his ground or believe tough questions come with fame, one thing is certain. This was live television at its rawest. No scripts, no edits, just real emotion. If you've been following stories where Hollywood's brightest collide with media pressure, this is only the beginning. More confrontations, more behind-the-scenes truths, and more moments that reveal who people really are when the cameras don't cut. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss the next unfolding story. Join the discussion, share your thoughts, and be part of the audience that sees through the headlines. Because in today's world, truth isn't just told. It's revealed live, raw, and unfiltered.